Okay, in this lesson, you will create an ad, launch and refine your ad, implement your service project, measure the progress on your project, and describe barriers encountered when implementing your project and how they were overcome. So let's go ahead and get started. Here's an introduction. Your team has selected and prepared to implement your service project. In this lesson, you will go public with it. It is time to do what you have been preparing for the past several lessons. First, you need to get information out to the public to generate support from your school and the larger community. Let people know what you are doing. Second, you will follow through on what you marketed and advertised and take the actions required to carry out and implement your service project.
Now on to the fun part. Once you've really got your initiative underway, you've really got to market the change. You want to make it really come alive. You want to come up with a bold approach to get people really excited about what you're trying to get done. And one of the exciting things about this lesson is that we have you create your own ads. Let me share what I learned about good advertising. When I was at Young Brands, our advertising agency would tell us all the things that are going on with social media and TV advertising and billboards. Think about all the messages that hit you every day. And I learned that if you don't communicate your message in 6.5 seconds, well, forget about it. Listen, you've got to get people's attention almost immediately or you don't have a chance to communicate with them. So everything we did in the food business, we tried to make sure that we gave you our best message in 6.5 seconds. Think about Taco Bell, Live Moss. Think about Pizza Hut. No one out pizzas the Hut. Think about KFC, finger licking good. Quick and to the point. Make your message communicate what your project is all about. So what we want you to do now is think about your project and write an ad. Find a great creative hook that will get people inspired to do something about the issue you're addressing. You know, you've come this far with your solution and your ideas. Now it's time to tell the world about it. Inspire others to get in the game and make it happen. So have some fun with this and take some risks. Try to be bold. Try to be provocative. Make it so people really get inspired by what you're talking about. This is a part of your entry to the Lead4Change Challenge. I can't wait to see or read your ad. I know it will make me want to get involved.
All right, create and launch your ad. So create an ad for your service project. The most effective ads are generally simple, concise, and memorable. Think just do it from Nike and think differently from Apple. Remember that people will give you a very small window of time to get their attention. According to a global marketing organization, people will give you 6.5 seconds on average to capture their attention. Be creative and bold. You want your ad to draw attention to your service project. With your team members, brainstorm, and again, you should have hard copies of these and write on these copies. With your team members, brainstorm ideas for a headline, sometimes called a hook, to get the attention of your target audience. Could the hook be an image? Have a team member take notes to capture your ideas, to guide your discussion. Think about this. Action words that capture your project goal. Your target audience, what words would draw their attention? 6.5 seconds, approximately 25 words. Then write your headline or hook for your ad by using the ideas your team generated. So here's some examples of headlines or hooks. Own it, your future, the environment. Our target audience is the high school students. The problem we're trying to solve is less plastic waste for a greener school. The solution we're proposing for our projects: buy 10 new recycling bins for the cafeteria. We're asking people to buy a ticket for Ravens Eco Dance Marathon on August 15th. Okay, so that's an example. Time management, planning your time is always important, but particularly important for this lesson. You need to quickly get your ad out to as many people as possible so they're ready to be part of your service project. Although you may not be able to meet in person with other classmates, friends, or club members, you can send your ad to them via email or social media. So complete your ad, okay? You have your hook. Now finish sketching out your ad. Use these questions to help create the message. What problem are you trying to solve? What is your proposed solution? What is your call to action? That is, what do you want the reader or listener to do? In the end, that's what you're going to tell them what to do. Use the hook to get their attention. Tell them the problem and your proposed solution, and then in the end, tell them what to do. And actually, a good way to find examples of this, if I were you, I would Google Lead4Change ads. Okay? I would look up something like that. I'm sure there's going to be examples out there for that. So add your team logo to the brand to brand your ad. Refer to your work on branding in Lesson 3. Branding is simply a way of using words or symbols to give immediate recognition to your project. Think about logos you see and recognize immediately the product or organization they reference. So share the sketch of your ad with your teams to get their reactions and comments. You could use canva.com to make this too, by the way. Listen and watch their reactions. Remember, they are a segment of the public you want to reach. How they react and what they say will give you an early insight into how the broader public may react. Then you're going to edit and finalize your ad. Use a separate sheet of paper to create your ad. If drawn separately, take a picture and attach it to this lesson or place it into your digital team folder. Okay, then you're going to launch your ad. Think about how to get your message out to the largest community. If you have a media resource person at your school, you may want to talk with him or her about ideas for getting your message out. With your team members, consider all media or methods you could use to get your ad seen and heard. You could use Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for the FBLA accounts. Consider a podcast to explain what and the why of your project, or a blog to keep your followers updated. Print, put it in the school or local newspaper, local and radio, TV and radio stations, bulletin boards at the school and community. So what you're going to do is list the strategies available for you to launch your ad. Remember that you and your team members are great ads for your service project. Ask for a few minutes before each of your classes to tell other students about your project. Tell your parents and other family members. Your enthusiasm will generate interest. Okay, so how are you going to do this? Okay, what can you do individually? Launch your ad. What strategies did you use and why? Debrief with your team on the outcomes of your ad launch. By the way, you can use the FBLA social media accounts and then share it with your own personal accounts. I think that's a great idea. Debrief with your team on the outcome. So what strategies worked well in getting the information out to the public? Did some work better than different segments of your target audience? Problems encountered in launching your ad and solutions to overcome those problems. Okay. School service project examples you could post on the school website. You could write an article for the newspaper. You could talk to the PTA. If you're doing a community service project, share with other schools and ask them to include on their websites. You can present at the city council to seek support. You could place public service announcements about your service project on KMAQ, for instance, or a radio station out of Dubuque. So now that you've identified effective and engaging elements of ads, it's time to create an ad of your own to market your team's project. With so many options for people to get information, it's important to think broadly about how the ad's message, locations for placing the message, and timing. Consider words and actions that connect to your target audience's interests and preferences. Plan your time so that you can move as quickly as possible to get your ad out to your target audiences. So maybe, you guys, each person on your team should make a sample ad, and then as a team you can decide which ones to use and which ones to use where. Okay, then this is what you've been prepared to do, implementing your service project. You will want to utilize all of your research and activities completed to inform your project launch. Consider time and resources. Do you have everything you need to move from process to action? Refer back to the previous lesson for your vision, your people map, your action plan, and to the ad created earlier in this lesson. All these resources will help you put your plan into action. This is a great time to pause the work that you're doing with the lessons for the project. Be sure to allow yourself plenty of time during this phase for you to actually implement your project. Use the project implementation checklist on page 22 of the student handout, which I will put in our classroom, to guide you as you work and help to keep you on track. The implementation phase, this phase could take several days, weeks, or even a month. So you may want to, keep an eye out on due dates and the calendar to ensure you have enough time to complete the project, finish the lessons that follow, and submit your project. Okay, so here's a little video on implementing the project.
In my school, we decided to focus on hunger and going out into the community and working with soup kitchens because that was a big issue within our community. So we had some students who, when we did a can drive, some students were in charge of going around the building and collecting the cans. And then I had another group of students who was in charge of counting the cans up and keeping track of them on a graph. So when you are able to outline the project as well as creating the chart so students are able to see who their community resources are, but also see who they're going to use to help implement their project so they can create this change in the world, then they're able to see how they can work together as a team. And when teachers allow your students to do the project, because when we allow students to do the project, it allows them to take more ownership in what they're going to be doing. So this is how I implement our Lead4Feed project.
All right, so you've done your research, completed the planning process, and spread the word about your project. Now it's time to put those plans into motion. This is your chance to act, to use the enthusiasm and excitement about your project to make a real difference in your community. As you begin the actual implementation of your project, use the resources developed in this and previous lessons to stay on track. Refer back to Lesson 4, in which you developed an action plan listing the tasks and steps to be completed to meet your service project goal. Use a checklist below as a reference to guide you as you work. So here's your checklist. Use the action plan as a checklist to confirm the required tasks that have been completed, and if not, who's responsible for them. And the checklist is going to be included in Lesson 6. Okay? Confirm team roles. Gather all required materials, agendas, handouts, follow-up information. Confirm all applicable logistics, site, time, speakers, media equipment, press coverage. Review your people map from Lesson 4 to include the people whom you identified to help you achieve the big goal. Now go implement. Congratulations, you've completed your project. Now it's necessary to take time to reflect with your team. Use the table below to describe the highlights and challenges. Okay, so I will include the checklist in Classroom for this. It's page 22 of the student guide. So I will definitely get that included in there. So now after the project is done, what were the highlights? What were the challenges? You guys should reflect. And then measure your project outcomes. Okay, so this is important. You have implemented your service project. Now it's important to reflect back on what worked and what did not. What tasks were critical and which had to be modified or added to get your end goal. Your action plan is your tool to guide you in your review of the process and outcomes of your service project. You want to answer the question, if I do this again, what would I do to make it better for yourself as well as for others? So go, and then right here is measure your project outcomes. Did you achieve your goal? If no, why? Your action plan completed in Lesson 4 was your tool to track your service project's progress. Compare your action plan, tasks, steps, and timelines to what actually occurred. Did you use the action plan to prepare for the project implementation? Like for example, you could say, reviewed the action plan and steps at the start of every team meeting. How did you use your action plan to monitor your progress? An example you could list is updated and modified as needed to stay on schedule and achieve goal. Identify electronic apps to connect daily with team members. What tasks did you have to modify or add, and why? So for example, you could put extended timeline for getting principal permission, added tasks, work with custodial staff to take down basketball equipment in gym, followed up to lack of responses to social media messages with a second, more animated message to get attention. For example, we used emojis and GIFs or photographs to highlight important points in the message. And then what one suggestion would you have for someone replicating this project? You could say, stay focused on your goal. Do not get distracted by side events. And then finally, every big project will come with barriers to success. But if you think about those barriers the right way, there's a good chance the implementation phase of your service project, you encountered barriers that may have impeded your success. Think about those barriers specific to your service project and how you would overcome them. So let's go ahead and watch this video.
Now that your project's well underway, did anyone you encountered ever say, it can't be done? Well, the first thing you've got to remember is that they might be right. So listen and understand what the issues are, and then really understand if they're real or not. If they're real, solve them. If they're not, get on with it, because you're definitely on the right track. The best thing you can have are benchmarks for your initiative, and then track your progress. During my time as CEO of Young Brands, one of the barriers that we had was that we were just really big. And I was worried about this thing I called big company-itis. So what I wanted to do is try to make our company as small as it could possibly be. Even though Yum restaurants are in 120 countries, and we have 1.4 million people, and we have 3 brands, I wanted to make the company as small and as family-like as I possibly could. And one of the ways is to work together as a team and always take the time to celebrate our progress along the way. So once we hit a benchmark, we did recognition. And I had a lot of fun doing that recognition. It all started when I was president at KFC. I gave away this rubber chicken. And I would go into a restaurant, for example, and I'd find someone who was doing a really great job. Let's say they're providing quality product. And I'd say, gee, Mary, I really appreciate everything you do. So what I'd do is I'd write on the floppy chicken and I'd say, hey, thank you, Mary, for being a great cook in our restaurant. Quality is the most important thing we provide our customers. And then I would say, hey, look, I'm going to take a picture with you and I'm going to send you this picture and you can do whatever you want with it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put your picture in my office because what you're doing is what our business is all about. And I really appreciate you doing it. And what I've done is I've filled my office with people that I've recognized all around the world. And I just absolutely love my office. In fact, I have pictures of people on the ceiling that I have recognized. And it really inspires me to do my job better. And hopefully it inspires everybody in the company to continue to recognize the people who are making it happen. Now, even today, I keep my recognition going with this Walk the Talk Award. This is what I give out to people who are walking the talk on behalf of others. Remember when I talked about the importance of not just saying something, but actually taking action? Well, this is the Walk the Talk Award, and I write on this, take pictures with people, and I'm filling up my office continually with people that I've recognized all around the world who are helping others. And it's so much fun. I think if you have fun recognizing the people and progress that you make on your initiative, you're going to inspire each other. So what have you done so far to recognize others? And have you taken the time to really say, hey, look, we just did this. Let's celebrate our progress. Now, if you do, you're going to create momentum. And momentum builds on momentum, and you get to the end game a lot faster. Now, you've taken on a very serious issue in the community, and you're making some great progress. Don't forget to have fun and to take some time for recognition along the way.
Okay, every project encounters challenges and barriers. Leaders identify the challenges and find ways to overcome them. And the chart below lists barriers you encountered when implementing your service project. Okay, for example, too little time or lack of support. And here are some things that you could do next time, maybe to overcome the barrier. Identify priorities and maximize team skills. For lack of support, clarify benefits and customize them to our target audience, showing how this is important or useful to them. So another barrier, maybe not enough time to register dancers. The action idea to overcome it, maybe recruit 3 students to help. One educator or judge was sick and couldn't participate. And then how to overcome it? How did you overcome it? Ms. Anderson, the librarian, agreed to judge. Ran out of soda at a concession stand. The principal gave permission to get bottles of water from the cafeteria. So those are some examples that you could put in there. When you're done with that, and again, this is your writing on this, it's time for a team high five. You marketed and implemented your service project. Moving from thinking to doing is not an easy task. It is important to know and understand a planning process that includes how to market and get the public's attention to support your goal. Actual implementation takes confidence, courage, and a strong belief that your effort will make a difference. So for the challenge, you're going to go log into Lead4Change, and you're going to add, put your ad created to promote your project into the challenge entry. You're also going to upload your project highlights and final outcomes and your barriers chart. Okay, so you could make that in a Google Doc and then, put it into the project that way too.